Battle of Ohio, Part 1. The Bengals have had a tough time playing the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. The last victory, 2017, 31-7 win, orchestrated by Bengals quarterback Andy Dalton. 2017. That's almost hard to believe. The good news is Cincinnati Bengals are a young football team. They don't have many guys that have been around all those years of struggling up in Cleveland against the Cleveland Browns. Bengals have 41 players on their active roster, 5 years or less experience, going into their 5th year. 12 practice squad players. That's 53 guys that were not part of a lot of that action up there in Cleveland. It's a tough place to play. There's no question about it. I mean, it's right on the lake. There can be some weather. It's supposed to be beautiful. It's supposed to be in the 70s, so weather shouldn't be an issue. Should be a perfect day for football up there in Cleveland. But this football team at home, it's a rabid crowd. The dog pound, handling that crowd noise in Cleveland is going to be a big factor. There's no two ways about that. And it's a big rivalry because Paul Brown founded both football teams. There's a lot of pride on the line, and you have to win your division. The easiest path to the playoffs is to win your division. The Bengals have done that 2 years in a row. They've won the division and advanced in the playoffs as a result of that with a decent seed. Since the AFC North was founded in 2002, no team has ever won the division championship 3 years in a row. The Bengals could be the first to do it. Tells you how competitive this division is. The Cleveland Browns are a well put together football team personnel-wise. I mean, they're the real deal. It's going to be a challenge to go up there and win a division game on the road. They're looking to knock the Cincinnati Bengals off, get off to a good start. What are the keys? There's a million keys in this game. One of the biggest issues that they've had up in Cleveland is mistakes, giving the game away with turnovers, with penalties. Hold on to the football. Ball security, big deal. Don't give them easy scores. Don't give them short fields. Don't negate a big play by penalty that calls it back. Don't give them a big play with a pass interference that gives them an easy score. Play a clean, sound football game, and you're going to be in pretty good shape. Let's talk about other keys to this football game because there's a gazillion of them. But this show is called In the Trenches. That's where this game is going to be won or lost. In my opinion, as a former offensive lineman, all games in the game of football are won and lost at the line of scrimmage. But this one in particular, who controls the line of scrimmage? The Cleveland Browns offensive line, the backbone of the offense for the last 3 years. They have a tandem of Pro Bowl guards. Joel Bitonio is the best pulling guard in football. This guy is the real deal. Wyatt Teller is a beast. They have 2 guards that can control the football game, and they'll both get out on the perimeter and working against smaller defensive players, try to secure that edge. You have to be able to contain the outside run, turn it back inside to where all your teammates are. Don't get outflanked. That's what the Cleveland Browns are going to try to do. Then once they get you spread out a little bit, controlling that outside running game, they will hammer Nick Chubb between the tackles. So you just have to be sound in your gap control responsibility up and down the line of scrimmage. There are no two ways about it. Bill Callahan is offensive line coach for the Cleveland Browns. I think he's one of the best in the game. Son Brian is the offense coordinator with the Bengals, obviously. So the Callahan family, first family of football, big rivalry game to get it going. Bill Callahan, all those starters return, the Pro Bowl guards that I'm talking about. I mean, this is going to be a challenge. Let's look at the running game of the Cleveland Browns. Last year, 146.5 yards a game, 5th best in the National Football League. The Bengals defensively gave up 106.5 yards per game on the ground, 7th best in the National Football League. That is going to be a stirring battle right there. On the flip side of it, Cleveland get gashed up the middle in the running game last year. They gave up over 135 yards a game, 25th in the NFL. They did make some personnel adjustments. They picked up Tomlinson, the big defensive tackle, Dalvin Tomlinson. This guy is a load inside. They've made it a lot tougher to gash them up the middle defensively. They knew they had a weakness and got addressed. in the offseason. The Bengals, though, only ran the ball last year, 95.5 yards a game, 29th in the National Football League. Cleveland gave up 135.2, which is 25th in the league. So both teams ran it well. Both teams struggled to stop the run. The Bengals was a negative 11-yard differential in the running game on a per-game basis. Cleveland's was plus 11. So, there was a first down advantage for Cleveland running it every football game, and it was a first down disadvantage in the running game for the Bengals every football game. Everybody knows when you're talking Cleveland Browns running game, you're talking Nick Chubb. The real deal, no doubt. Last year, he ran the football 302 times for 1,525 yards, averaged 5 yards a carry. He's the only running back in the NFL that ran the ball for 225 times or more and averaged 5 yards after contact. Man, that's a stat right there. Carried the ball over, the only running back in the NFL that carried the ball 225 times or more that averaged 5 yards per rush after contact. He averaged 5 yards per rush overall. Interesting stat here that I found. He rushed for 12 touchdowns when Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback for 11 games. He didn't rush for a touchdown when Watson was the quarterback for 6 games. That's just an anomaly right there. With him, what you have to do is you have to get multiple hats to the football. Don't leave Chubb in space one-on-one with a defender. That's his game. I mean, you have to take good angles of pursuit. You have to rally to the football, run to the football, get a bunch of hats on Nick Chubb, and you have to, gang tackle this guy. Pure and sure tackling. You got to gang tackle this guy. Don't leave it up to one-on-one tackling, because Nick Chubb will lick his chops. I mean, that is his game. That's his game big time. That's the most important thing, is to control Nick Chubb, because if you don't control Nick Chubb, Watson will go crazy. Deshaun Watson, 6 games last year in 2022, he completed 58% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, quarterback rating of just over 79. His 4 years in Houston, before the trouble that he ran into and the suspension for a year plus, he completed over 2/3 of his passes, 67.8% over a 4-year time frame in Houston. I mean, he had a quarterback rating of 104.5 over a 4-year time frame. He was one of the best in the NFL when he was at Houston. In 2020, 4,800 plus yards, more than 4,800, 33 touchdown passes. Which is he going to be? Is he going to be that quarterback closer to the year 2020? Or is he going to be the quarterback that performed last year? Cleveland thinks it was rust and dust, and he'll be able to shake that off, and he'll be able to perform. If he doesn't have a running game, it's going to be tougher for him to perform. It can make him one-dimensional. If Chubb is controlling the game on the ground, Deshaun Watson will flourish. He's got a bunch of receivers to get the football to. They've done a good job getting him weapons to throw the football to. At the tight end position, Njoku, at the wide receiver position, multiple receivers to throw the football to. I mean, he's locked and loaded there. He is stacked. Some of the names: Amari Cooper. I mean, that's a big time performer right there. Chubb's a good receiver out of the backfield as well. They picked up Elijah Moore, a speed guy, in free agency at the receiver position as well. That's a big factor. The thing about Deshaun Watson is his mobility. He's a threat to run the football at any time. And with Watson, a big key in the football game is pass rush lane integrity. You have to stay in your rush lane. Watson looks for you to be undisciplined, get out of that rush lane, or one of his offensive linemen to wash you out of the rush lane. When I watched tape on Watson, particularly last year, he was a 2-read guy. His 3rd read, tuck and go. A lot of times he never got to the backside. He took 2 front side reads, tucked, and ran the football. Now, I know he can get to the backside, and other times he would give a quick look to the backside, come back to the front side, and then run the football. But he will, if he sees a pass rush lane open up where he can run the football and be effective doing that, he has no hesitation. I don't think you have to put a spy on him necessarily, but you have to stay disciplined in your pass rush lane. If you don't, Deshaun Watson can make you look foolish running the football, and he can extend and create. I think that's going to be a big factor in the football game. Will Joe Burrow be able to go? How, if, and I think he will, how effective will he be in terms of extending and creating plays? I mean, if Joe Burrow can't protect himself in the pocket in terms of quick, sudden movements, trying to evade pressure, that's going to test that calf. A quick movement to run out of pocket is going to test the calf. Those explosive, short space, quick movement deals are going to be the final scenario. But both of these quarterbacks are very, very capable of extending and creating plays. And that drives defensive coordinators, coaches, defensive coaches, and defensive players crazy, because you've got you have the first play, the design play. You take it away, all aspects of it defensively. You've done a heck of a job. There's nowhere to go for the quarterback with the football. And then he decides that he's going to extend and create a play. And as a result of that extension and creation, he creates a play that's better than the play that was called. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating or disappointing or deflating than you've got it locked down, and then the second phase of the play, you don't have it locked down and a big play occurs. That is a tough pill to swallow for a defense. When an offense can do that and can do it with regularity, that's a heck of a weapon for an offensive coordinator and for an offensive football team in general. If you have a quarterback that's capable of creating and extending a play. Jim Schwartz is the new defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. I have a lot of respect for Jim Schwartz. He's been a heck of a defensive coordinator for a lot of years in the National Football League. He was a head coach with the Detroit Lions for a time frame as well. Jim Schwartz has pressure packages that are as good as there is in the National Football League. He is a phenomenal schemer in terms of making sure that up front he will cover linemen up, and his main threat, and this is another big key to the football game, is protecting Joe Burrow or whoever is in at the quarterback position. When you have an ace pass rusher like the Cleveland Browns do with Myles Garrett, Jim Schwartz is going to make sure that Myles Garrett has as many one-on-one opportunities as he possibly can get him. And I think he's going to really work him hard against Jonah Williams at the right tackle position. It would not surprise me at all if that's where Myles Garrett lines up quite a bit and tries to get, and Jim Schwartz tries to get him one-on-one pass rush opportunities there to test Jonah Williams in his first game at the right tackle position, moving over from left. I'm not saying that he's going to line up there all the time, because he is, the thing about Myles Garrett, he can line up here, there, or everywhere, so beware. I mean, this guy can line up at either defensive end. He can kick inside if they feel that there's a mismatch there to take advantage of at the guard position. But Jim Schwartz is as good as anybody in the National Football League in getting a guy like Myles Garrett a matchup that's favorable to him. So, I mean, that's going to be a big, big factor in the football game, is offensive line coming up, recognizing and communicating what's going on up front. Quarterback doing the same thing, taking a picture of things and making sure that he knows where he's going to go with the football. The Bengals have to have enough in their game plan formationally to battle what Jim Schwartz is going to do. I mean, they're going to have to chip. They're going to have to slow block with the tight end. They're going to have to slide the line. They're going to have to do everything they possibly can to negate Jim Schwartz. It's going to be interesting to me to see who's the puncher and who's the counterpuncher. If the Bengals offense is the puncher and Jim Schwartz is counterpunching, I'll feel pretty good about that. If Jim Schwartz is the puncher and the Bengals are now panicking and trying to counterpunch what he's doing, I'll be less comfortable with that. I think it's going to be interesting to see how all that unfolds up front. That chess match that's going to be going on between Jim Schwartz and Brian Callahan and Zac Taylor and the offensive coaches and Jim Schwartz and his defensive coach is going to be interesting. That's not to say that there's not going to be a chess match going on the other side of things as well, I mean, Lou Anarumo, he's a chess master. There's no two ways about that. And I'll put him up against any coordinator in the National Football League in terms of schematic and adjusting schematic and making changes and little alterations and tweaks to his game plan right on the sideline, right as things are unfolding. He's got a very intelligent defensive football team. He can do that with them. That's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds, because in the opener, you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean, preseason, vanilla, nothing fancy, nothing, earth-shaking, earth-shattering. But in the opener, that's when new packages can come out, new schematics, new plays, new designs, a lot of new things. But that's the challenge for the coaches as well. Don't overdo that. You have to establish an identity as quickly as you possibly can. So you better believe they're going to be pounding Nick Chubb. They're going to be pounding that guy. And you have to stop him or control him. I don't know about stopping him. I don't know too many people that have stopped, but you cannot let him take over the football game. And with the Bengals' issues at the quarterback position, they've got to get their running game going. They got to get Joe Mixon and company going. They cannot put it all on the shoulders of Joe Burrow if, in fact, he is the quarterback in the football game, or Jake Browning if he's the quarterback in the football game. Cleveland doesn't want to put it on the shoulders, all on the shoulders of Deshaun Watson either, particularly in the opener. Who's going to be able to run it? It's going to be a big factor. Talked about it earlier. In the opener, turnovers can be a big deal. Look at last year. The Bengals had 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions, and lost a fumble. Still could have won the football game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but didn't. The reason? They went -5. Pittsburgh didn't turn it over. The Bengals went -5 and lost the football game. Learn from that lesson. Turnover ratio last year for the season, Cincinnati went +6, 6th best in the NFL. Cleveland was -1, which is in the middle of the pack, tied for 16th in the National Football League. Not giving away possessions while getting extra possessions is a big, big deal in the football game. It's big in any level of football. So it's absolutely huge. And then turnovers, depending on where they occur, they're going to dictate a lot of field position. I mean, if you do turn the football over, you certainly don't want to turn it over in your half of the football field or in your short field area where they recover a fumble or intercept a football and they're in the red zone. They get a short field score, you're giving up points right away. Those are the kind of things that you can't have happen in any football game. And like I talked about before, when you're in that red zone, don't have penalties that'll take you out of the red zone. If you score a touchdown, don't have a penalty that nullifies the touchdown. Defensively, don't incur a penalty that gives them a 1st and goal at the 2-yard line. Got to be smart. Got to execute your techniques. Get it done. Time to shake off the demons up there in Cleveland on the lake. Zac Taylor hasn't won in Cleveland as a head football coach. Joe Burrow hasn't won in Cleveland as a starting quarterback with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's almost mind-boggling. Got to get this win. Open, on the road, division opponent, Ohio rival. It's all right there to get off to a great start. And you play the Baltimore Ravens at your place. Another division game. Could start off 2-0 in the division. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that fast start. You don't want to have to crawl out of a little bit of a hole that you dig. Get off to a fast start. Stay ahead of everybody. Play from ahead, not from behind. Key to a successful season. Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team. Opportunity knocking.